One thing I thought about on my run last week uh, was my middle school days, where I was first introduced to running. Um, I never took myself as a runner per se, and I never had any interest in running. But this run that I had last week, uh, one thing that I thought about was how in middle school and high school I would look up to people who were physically fit, or oh, I wish I had a bigger chest. I wish that my arms were as big as these people's arms. And I did many comparisons of myself to other people. And one thing that when I was younger that really that I felt I had a issue with uh, was my legs and my calves. Um, Back then I didn't work out, and my top part of my body was definitely way skinnier than the rest of my body. But the thing that always remained was the size of my legs. And when I was becoming an adolescent, I always had this subconscious feeling that people are judging my legs because they're bigger than what a normal leg looks like to other people. And um, what when I when I when I got into my running journey, I still had these same thoughts. And it wasn't until a few years later that I would consider my legs to be a part of who I am. And that is something I kind of wanted to speak to this week. Now, everyone is different in their own individual way, in their own mental capacity, and a lot of times people will have the upper hand, whether it be genetics, speed, looks, any of that type of criteria. But it's is what you make of what you have. It is what makes a person really great. And learning that really put a huge perspective in my mind. It told me that regardless of what your shortcomings are, that you'll you'll work to the best of your abilities to create the best product, to overcome any obstacle. And I think that really pushes me to lift every day and progress in all of my lifts. It's something I enjoy, and I think the goal of nonstop learning and the goal of progressive overload really makes me happy to see these things uh, flourish in my life. And the same goes for my running journey. I mean, I started out at 11 minutes a mile. I would start out at running 1 mile as a workout, and eventually get to 2 miles, and then 3 miles. But with every added mile, it always felt like I struggled in keeping my endurance, and I would always be huffing and puffing just because I couldn't run past 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and every step I took when I went running, it didn't feel natural to me. And I always had these thoughts of like, when will this ever get better in my head? And knowing what I know now compared to back then, the thing that I do know is that it never gets easier. Things you start to build a tolerance for things. Whether you challenge yourself to run for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you always set the bar higher than what you're accustomed to, and really building these stepping stones. It really shows how far you've come, and I see this journey as a mountain. You're always climbing. You're always climbing to the top, and everything that you do in your life, the decisions you make, the amount of effort you put in, will add to your journey to eventually get to the top. And when you think you have finally reached the peak of the mountain, you kind of stop and look around to see how far you really achieved. And once you take a few moments to think about all that, you see something on the horizon, something a little farther away, and all of a sudden there's another peak that's even higher than the peak that you're currently on. And what do you do in that moment? You stay at the peak of where you're at, or do you keep striving to to scale the next mountain, to find the next challenge, to become someone better than than you were yesterday. And that's what really keeps me going. Um, I want to I want to leave a I want to leave a legacy for myself, and I don't want to go through I don't want to go through my life knowing that I didn't give it all that I could. So kind of a long talk about my upbringings. I've been continuing the 5x5s with a pretty high hypertrophy sets. The one thing that wasn't great this week was the consistency of my waking up schedule. I wouldn't wake up in time to do all the lifts that I want to. So a lot of my workouts were definitely, I would say, like 45 minutes to 70 minutes per se. And normally I go for a little bit longer, maybe an hour 30 to 2 hour mark before my body calls it quits. So I'm really trying to figure out to get some sort of consistency in my schedule. And this is the second week that my cousin started to train with me. It's definitely very helpful. You know, like I said in the last video, it's really helpful to have two people that have similar thoughts, or I guess similar values, and you know, they're barely starting their journeys, and I try to help them as much as possible by setting an example of what you can achieve with consistency and hard work. And I think it's paying off. So my top set was the 315 here, and I'm just like really experimenting with the angles. This one's a little bit farther back. I know the other one is more of a front side. I wanted to try to get a side shot to really see how my form comes through. And I think maybe in the coming weeks we will approach or attempt the 405. I want to try to get past that point. I feel like that's the threshold that I have with my deadlift. So I did 3 sets here, and I included this here because I just want to show you, you know, I did 1 rep here, and right when I did that, you know, it was just over. I couldn't pull anymore. Here's my running splits for the week. Having really good running strides this week, and even though the weather's not the greatest, but I've been running either late in the afternoons or early mornings. Hope to continue this, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.